Hey guys, ready to design some 3D sets in Moho? Because that's what this course is all about. This Moho Pro course was originally published on Udemy and is now being placed on YouTube for archival purposes. Each week, I will be posting a chapter from the course right here. If you still want access to my original work files or the entire course at once, you can check that out in the description below.
For this course, it's recommended you have basic knowledge of either animation or Moho. I am going to go pretty slow with this, and I will try to explain everything as thoroughly as possible. However, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on basic functions of Moho. For instance, I will expect that you know what the add point tool is, or I'll expect you to know how to copy using Command C or Control C. So, just as long as you have some basic knowledge of the software, you can definitely dive in and start working with this course. If you don't have that knowledge, I have plenty of Moho videos on YouTube, which will allow you to get up to speed and learn the software. And there's also a number of awesome Moho courses from other authors on Udemy as well. So be sure to look at all of that before you dive in. But again, I think you'll also find that the learning curve of this course is very light. Before we dive into Moho and start building our 3D set, I wanted to take a moment and talk about sketching things out, or at least putting in some pre-planning or a little bit of thought before you dive into the 3D elements of Moho. Now, you can do this numerous ways. I like to just sketch something out really quick, and by really quick, I mean really quick. You can see that it's quite messy, and it might even be kind of hard to tell what's going on. But what's important is it works for your own purposes, and by looking at this, I'll be able to map something out for us as we continue along. But if you have the ability to get an iPad app, I did this one in Procreate, and I was able to use vanishing points to help set up some sort of perspective, which helps, especially since we are building a 3D background. But you can just sketch this out on a piece of paper if you wish as well, wherever you want. Ultimately, it's best to have some sort of idea of what you want before you dive in and start designing things, especially in 3D, inside of Moho. And for this particular course, this sketch will be available to you if it's any use for you, and I will be making use of it as we go over to Moho in the next video. We are now inside of Moho, and we need to create a new document so we can begin the process of building the set. You can do this by going up to your File menu, or you can use Command N or Control N if you're on Windows. You might also find that you have a sample file visible when you launch Moho. You can just close out of this and make that new document. So once you have the document set up, the first thing we want to do is go into the properties, because it's important with any animation that you set up the resolution and the frame rate ahead of time, so that way everything properly lines up as you continue along. If you try to make these changes later on, it can lead to conflicts. So let's go ahead and just go to those properties. And again, by going to your File menu, you can go to File and go all the way down to Project Settings, or Shift-Command-P or Shift-Control-P if you're on Windows. Once you bring this up, you can see we have access to the dimensions. We can also go through the process of picking out a template if we don't want to put in custom values. But here you can go through and choose all that, as well as your frame rate, which is right down here. So for this tutorial, we're going to use the 1080 HDTV 920 by 1080 template, which is 920 by 1080 at a frame rate of 24. And the end frame will probably change, but we're going to just leave it for now, and we'll move on to importing our sketch. So we can click OK, and the second part is to import. So we'll use Command Shift Y or Control Shift Y if you're on Windows. this will bring up the general import window. And if you can't remember that combination, you can also import by going up to File, Import, and then right here you have access to a variety of different import types. Now, Command-Shift-Y is going to do a general import, which will just allow you to bring in anything that Moho can recognize. So we want to go in and find that sketch that I made in the previous video. I can come down here to my course and go into my exercise files. It's called scenesketch.png. Just locate that. And you now have the sketch brought in, and it should fit the entire canvas because it's the same resolution as the document we just set up. So now we have that in place, and we can use it as a reference. Now, one more thing I'm going to do, and I'll start doing this as we go throughout the course, is I will save this file. And I'm going to save every single file as we go, so that way you can check this out every single step of the way, should you need it. So here, we'll make sure we have a new folder for this, and it will be more organized, I'm sure, once you are looking at this. So let's make it exercise files, and this will be importing sketch, and I'll even number it for you. So that way you know it comes first within the list of exercise files. So there you go. So we will save that. If you want to look at what I did here, you can check out this file I just saved. And up next, we'll move on to drawing out our vectors in Moho. For this video, we are working off of 01 importing sketch.moho. We have our sketch on screen, and we want to go in and start building the set pieces or props or whatever you see here on the sketch. Now, the easiest way to do this, at least from my experience, is just to dive in and start getting your shapes down using the Add Point tool. So let's come down here to our layers, and I'm just going to take layer 1 and move it up so it's above the sketch. We'll keep the sketch below everything else since that is our reference. And here, I can tap once on layer 1 and just name it to tree for right now. That might change as I start to build things up and things get more complex. Next, while on that tree layer and on frame 0, come over here and grab the Add Point tool. You can use A on your keyboard if you wish. And since we named this tree, we're just going to focus on this tree right here to start. It looks dead and not very great, and that's fine. So we're just going to dive in and make it look worse. Well, since you know it's supposed to be dead. So we're going to start at the bottom and click once and then hold down the mouse button, which will allow you to drag 2 points, or at least 1 point connected to another like this. And we're just going to bring it up and try to connect it with the sketch. And you can see we now have 2 points set down, and we can continue to do this. So we can click and drag on that next one and bring it up. And you can see we now have some different things going on here. And we can just kind of keep going and filling this out. Now, if you want to put the branches in on one layer, you can, and I think I might. So I'm just going to come down. If it doesn't look quite right, we can always play with that after we apply the 3D settings. But we'll just play with this, go up. And you'll notice right now that everything is kind of rounded. I'm going to adjust that here in a moment. We're just getting all of our points in so that we can then do what I just said with the cleanup. So come down like this, and we can take some liberties. We don't have to follow the sketch exactly. And just kind of keep coming down like that. And when I go to that first point and release, we have created an enclosed shape. The next step is to come in and make some of these points more pointy. We can use the selection tool for this, the select points tool, and we can come in and start selecting areas that we think need to be jagged. Now, what I'm going to do is select a bunch of points at once. So we'll select that one, hold and shift, select these two, hold and shift, and just keep shift held down as you go through and select these end pieces. We'll start with this and see if we need to do anything else. Now I accidentally selected that one there, but that's okay. We'll just run with it for right now. So now, once you have your points selected, you can come over here to the Curvature tool. Click on it or use C on the keyboard. Up here, you can adjust just how rounded things are based on the number. By default, it's at 0.3. If you want things to be completely jagged, you can tap on the peak button, just like that, and you'll see that it makes everything to 0 that is selected, and now you have jagged looking points. And you can do the opposite by clicking on the smooth option. So that's looking pretty good, but I'm going to come back in here now and just make some quick corrections. I can come in and adjust the branch a little bit like that, maybe kind of have it sticking up like so. See, this one's a little bit too pointy, so I might adjust that. But we'll come in here right now and just try to get these looking as branch-like as possible. So there we go. And we do want a little bit of roundness in some spots. Again, this branch right here, it's not quite where I want it. If I hold Shift and I right-click and I drag to the right, I can zoom in. And remember, right-click also allows you to click and drag to move the canvas around. So that's how I'm navigating. And I'm just going to come in and add in another point. Can come up. And we can just sort of adjust it like that. And that's looking okay for right now. So we can just zoom back out. And there we go. Now we could add some more details to this. So maybe I will do that really quick. Just add some secondary branches and such. So once again, using that add point tool, I will start with one of the points here on this main branch and just kind of come out like this and down, and we'll keep going just like this. Just try to make smooth, nice, clean points. And you can set this up ahead of time so that it's more pointy when you're drawing, but I like to have it rounded first, and then we can do more adjustments as we get closer to the end here. So we'll do one more. Kind of come out like that. Just make it a little bit crazier. And there we go. So now once again, taking the selection tool, I can just come in and select the areas by holding in Shift that I want to cover here. And we have a few here. So just come in, get all those points selected, go to your Curvature tool. I'll use C on the keyboard to access that. Come up here to peak, turn that on, and you can see what this looks like. Now again, if it's too extreme, you can go somewhere in the middle. You don't have to always peak every single thing. But I think we can make it work like this. So I might peak that one right there. You can see we have kind of a weird issue right here. So I'll just come into that one and we'll peek it off really quick. And I think that looks a little bit better. Might actually look a little bit better if I come up like that. There we go. And again, it's just sort of feeling things out. Now, again, I have my own art style and things are a little bit cartoony and I do certain things and that might not appeal to you, and that's completely fine because you can come in with your own style and you can adjust these things any way you see fit. And I think it'll make, again, a nice presentation when you're done. I think it'll surprise you when you start to put all the 3D elements together. So on the bottom here, I'm also using the Curvature tool. I'm just coming in and seeing what peak looks like. And I actually think I am going to do that. Those 3 points in the bottom, we're just going to peek them out and kind of place them like that. The last thing I want to do is fill this whole thing in. Now it's made up of a few different parts, so we'll have to come in with our lasso tool in order to make sure that everything is filled in. So we have the Select Points tool selected, and at the top, you'll see there's something called lasso mode. So make sure that's enabled. This will allow you to do a freehand selection with the tool. We're now going to come over here and just make a freehand selection. So using that tool, we can come in and you can see I am selecting, and I'm just going to select all the way around this first branch. Now, if we come down here to the Create Shape tool, you'll see I currently have both selected, which means if I create a shape, it's going to take the fill and the stroke colors I currently have assigned, plus any of the width properties, and apply it to this particular object. And that's completely fine. However, I think I'm just going to go with fill for this, just to make it a little bit easier. And then come over here to my color swatch, and we can pick our color here. Something brown for right now. Maybe closer to the gray area. We'll go with something like that and click OK. And once you have your color and you have fill selected, you can click Create Shape, and that will fill everything in. So now we're just going to go through and do that for all these main areas really quick. So create your shapes, get all that filled in, and then we can just create the shape. And also when you are using the Create Shape tool, you can select, I kind of forget about that sometimes, you can use even lasso mode as well. So as you can see, I'm still just using the Create Shape tool, and we're able to go in and just lasso and create shapes without having to jump back and forth, which is actually really nice. Now, using the lasso tool once again for the final part, I'm just going to come in here and select the main part of the tree and keep those separate branches out of the equation. So just come in like that. Come over here to the Create Shape tool. You can see we've selected that whole thing now, and we can choose to create the shape with the same fill color that we used before. And you can see now we have something like this. Now we might have a little bit of an issue here, but we can just kind of come up there and reconnect that to make it look more like it belongs. And you can go through and correct any issues that you feel are necessary to correct, sort of like that. But that gives us an idea. We now have a very basic tree that we can convert over to a 3D object. So we'll pause here, and up next, we will keep working on this set, building up our assets. For this video, we're continuing to work inside of Moho. I have O2 designingassets.moho opened up and ready to go. So that way we can continue to build up these assets. Now we have the tree that we made, and we have some rocks here, as well as some other background elements, such as hills, mountains, the sun, and of course we have the ground, or in this case, what will be lava. So there's a few more things to design. So let's just get right to it. I'm going to create a new vector. We can name this one rock, and then hit enter. Now, I'll just come over here to the Draw Shape tool and grab the oval from the list. Now, I can come in, making sure I select a lighter gray color, maybe something like that. Click OK. And autofill is currently turned on. We don't want the strokes turned on. And I can come in and just start filling things out. Once I apply that oval, I can come in and add some more points with the Add Point tool. And then using the Transform Points tool, we can add a little bit more of a shape to this so it's not just a round object. Kind of come down like this and just make some small modifications. They don't have to be major, just to, again, help by adding a different shape to this. So come in and just kind of go like that. There we go. And I'm going to do the same now for the other rocks I currently sketched out. So, new vector layer, name it rock 2, draw out a shape, take your Add Point tool, come in, modify, just like that. And you can be creative and do whatever you feel is necessary to get the shape of the rock. And then we'll do at least one more. Maybe we'll do two more. So we have rock 3. Again, just draw that out. And then we'll do one more. And we can place this one down here because I had sort of an indication of one. So once again, we can come in, just kind of draw something out like this, just to have it there. Now, you'll notice that this rock is in front of the tree, which is how it should be, but we also have one rock right here that's in front of this branch, and that's fine. We can arrange these things right now if we wish, but when we bring everything into 3D, it's going to change the way we work anyway. So for right now, this is more of a matter of just getting the shapes down, and then we're going to rearrange later on in 3D space. So we'll pause here, and up next, we'll keep building up the 2D assets. For this video, I am working off of O3 Designing Assets Part 2.moho, so feel free to open up this file if you wish to follow along. We're now going to lay out the rest of the major assets, and we might come back and do some more 2D design work as we fill things out in 3D, but this will set us up for now so that we can move forward with the next phase. The first thing we want to do is establish the ground, because we do need, of course, that ground or lava for this shot. I can come up to my new layer button and choose vector from the list, name it lava, and then hit enter. Come over here to the fill color, and we can choose something orangish for right now. Again, this is all going to change when we get to the texturing phase, but for right now, we can just add this so that we get an idea. I can select the shape tool and then choose the rectangle from the list, and then come in and then just draw out the rectangle like so. And I'm going to place it below everything else, just for right now. Then we need the mountains, the hills, and the sun, or whatever this is. Maybe we're on an alien planet, and that's an alien moon. I'm not really sure, but we do need those assets. So let's make a new layer. And we can name this one mountains. Using the add point tool, I can come over here to the fill color, and just for right now, because I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to color everything yet, let's make these maybe a darker red, kind of in the background. It's dark red like that. And I can come in and just place these points down. Now, again, we have like a wavy looking line here. I plan to change that. I'm just going to come in right now and place something down like so. Then I will use Command A to select all the points on that layer. Hit C to go to curvature, and then hit the peak button to bring everything like so. Now I can come in, and maybe I'll make this one a little bit shorter, and then this one's higher up, and then that one can kind of be somewhere in the middle. Not really a big deal, just as long as we have the shape in place. And if we were to do a scrolling background, we would want more mountains, but this should be okay for now. So we're just going to highlight those and then use the Create Shape tool, and then use the Create Shape button with that tool to set up the mountains. And we have some hills as well, in addition to the sky and the sun. So we can make that new vector and rename it to hills. Grab the oval tool from the Draw Shape tool. Come over here to our fill, and we're just going to change the color a little bit, maybe something more on the yellow side. And then we'll come in, and we're just going to place hills like this beneath the mountains, but they're also overlaying the mountains as well. Then we'll come down here, make a new layer. We'll name this one Sky, and then come over here to our fill. And I'm not really sure what I want the color of the sky to be right now. Maybe I'll make a dark purple for right now. That might change. Everything might change. It's sort of a process you feel out as you go, but at least you'll get to see the change as I do it. So we're just going to come in here and put that sky down. And we can place that below everything else so that we can at least see what's going on. And then the final thing was the sun or the moon or whatever we had in the sky. Since it's a dark purple sky, maybe it's not a sun, maybe it is a moon. So we'll come in and just name this one sun or sky or star, I should say. And then come over here to the oval tool. Maybe pick a lighter pink for this. And we can just kind of come in and draw it out like that. Let's bring it up like so. Again, it does not look very impressive right now, but it's all a matter of laying down the basics first before we can go in and start building more things in. So now that we have the basic and the main foundation down for the 2D assets, we can move on to setting up the 3D space, playing around with that, and making decisions from there.